Hey everyone, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. My name is Justin, and this is.
What? No soft pillows today?
I know. I think I'm gonna put it to rest. Put it to
Since we're
rest.
nearing the end of the book.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the shtick maybe has been put out to the pasture and needs to be shot. So,
Oh wow! That's a tad bit aggressive there, Justin. I wasn't expecting you to give it up, and I wasn't expecting murder on the gram.
well, I mean, now that Riga's come to fruition, I feel like I'm good. I'm at peace. I'm at peace with myself in this book. So.
All right. Hey, it works. Well, before I forget, then this is Derek, and I'll just be that today.
Ooh, you're gonna give up the British
Standing,
Shield?
standing, standing strong with you, Justin.
Hell yeah. I like it. I like it. Um, cool. Well, I mean, what else should we stand strong on? What's been new? How'd your hockey games go?
Friday night, I worked the women's hockey game for the local university, and they played an exhibition game against the University of Manitoba, and they beat them 5-1. Um, it was just a Friday night game. Most of the time, I won't do the Friday night games, but I'm kind of training in another guy, so uh, he kind of needed to be shown the ropes. So did that. And then Saturday was kind of, I tried going for a run. I've been, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do the half marathon next month. My leg, I've been having problems with, I think, my Achilles or something. I'm not sure what it is, but, I get varying lengths into a run and then I have to just stop because something happens and I'm in pain. And if I push it too far, like the first time it happened, I pushed through it and it was sore for about a week. And so I rested it here for a few weeks, went for a run, got about a mile in, and I had to stop. So um, played hockey this morning. Skating doesn't bother it, just I guess a different motion. Um, but we lost our game 4-3 this morning. So it
Ooh,
was good though. It was a lot of fun.
sounds like a close one then, huh?
Yeah, it was close. I mean, it was close on the scoreboard, but we controlled most of the game. They got a pretty strong goalie. We had a lot of shots. He just got most of them.
Well, I mean, I would say that that's a good goalie as well. It's unfortunate that he wasn't on your side.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes. So
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad that it was fun. I mean, that makes it, all the more worthwhile. It's when it's
yeah,
enjoyable. So,
definitely. What about you? What'd you do this weekend,
um,
or what else did you do in general?
this has been, I don't know, I guess for the most part it's been pretty back to the grind. Nothing like terribly you know, not a huge big event like moving or anything, but I did help Corey, who move out of his apartment and into just some townhomes across the street. So I did that Friday after I got done with work till about like 11 o'clock at night. And then Saturday, what did I do yesterday? Oh, Gavin had football pictures, and then he had a football game. Um, and then I pretty much all day yesterday waited for my new PS5 to show up. So
Ooh,
yeah, that was nice when it finally did. Those things have been so fucking hard to acquire. Ugh. Um, yeah, and then this morning I went and helped the lady's mom move a desk from her house to her office. And then I watched the Vikings game and was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Glad they pulled off a win. Very, very glad. And it was also really it was nice for the last couple of weeks being able to just like chat with you during the game. I
yeah,
usually
that was fun to do that.
I usually don't have anyone that like, Danny's on her phone and she's like in the area, but it's not like she like, yells at the TV like I do or anything like that. Um, but it's nice to just kind of banter back and forth about it.
Yeah, I agree. And
But
it was a good game and pulled it off in the end. That's what matters.
right, as you said, you got to play the whole 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's good. I feel like most matchups with the Detroit Lions are always like super close when it comes to the Vikings. So,
I guess I was watching on Hulu. I don't know if you had the same announcers or not. I don't remember the guys' names, but they said historically we have pretty close games with them. I'm sure there's been, some outliers where, I at least as long as I can remember, Detroit's been kind of the bottom feeders of the league. So I imagine we probably had some blowouts against them, but maybe way back in the day they blew us out a few times too. I don't know.
oh yeah, yeah, oh for sure. No, I mean we have Hulu, but we must not have what you have because I was unable to watch any football games on Hulu. So,
Oh yeah, we do Hulu Live.
uh is that extra a month?
Yeah, so we do that instead of like cable.
Okay. Maybe
So I mean, we have Netflix and HBO or HBO Max or Go or whatever the hell it's called. And but yeah, we don't have TV through our internet provider. We just do Hulu Live, and that's got just about everything I'm going to watch anyways on live TV, which is just mostly the sports stuff,
right, right.
and then just about anything else is on Hulu or whatever other streaming service.
Is that how is it a huge difference in what you would pay for just regular Hulu?
It's like $64 or something.
Okay, a year or a month?
No, that's a month.
Oh, okay.
That's basically like a cable TV package, more or less.
Gotcha. I suppose I could always just, not renew it when football is over. But
Yeah.
I just went and bought a digital antenna that I plugged into the TV. So that's
Oh yeah.
how I watch it. Yeah. It was like $34. It gets most of the local shows or the most of the local channels.
Does it come through pretty clear?
Depending on where you sit, yeah, absolutely. The whole shtick with antennas. So, or I mean, the closer you can get it to the window, the better the reception. But the cable on that thing is not as long as I would like it to be. So, yeah, we made it work though.
It's kind of nice that it's available though. You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's only with football season that I'm like, oh, I want to watch like actual cable. Everything else is, Netflix, HBO, Hulu.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, yeah. I don't know. I guess what do you say? Should we segue into chapter 23 here from Gardens of the Moon?
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Ooh. Ooh. Dude, I gotta admit, I'm getting like really pumped. Like, I'm super excited to read this last chapter after we're done recording. Like, that's probably what I'm going to do before I go to bed tonight is just crank it out.
Yeah, I would like to, but I don't know if I will. I guess we'll see what happens. But we got House of the Dragon on tonight. I'll watch that, and then
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I'll get a chance to read. So
I've totally forgot
we'll
about
see.
that. Yeah, I'll be watching that too. So,
But yeah, sometime this week. Yeah, it's. I mean, we're more or less done with this book. So
yeah, it I gotta say it feels great to and in March I remember feeling like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? And now this is finally here. So um yeah, I guess it feels rewarding. It feels super, super accomplishing. Uh
yeah, it does. We're stuck with it, and uh, here we are at the end of it.
right, right. And yeah, definitely an interesting chapter. Was not going the way that I expected it to at all.
Yeah, there's definitely something, well, from, we were wondering how Rake was gonna get everybody's attention in the streets to clear the streets, and I mean, we'll see how that happens, and yeah, I wasn't expecting it to go down that way, and uh, a few other things that I'm sure we'll discuss.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be a good episode. We've got I feel like we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So Um, yeah, I guess if we don't have any other pre-book conversations, let's dive into our epigraph.
All right, you want me to take it here this week? It's a pretty short one.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Chapter 23. It was said she turned the blade on herself then to steal the magic of life. Just reading that now, I don't really. Maybe you get caught something that I didn't, but I don't really see how that one relates to this chapter. But maybe they all don't. So
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a falling on the sword.
a little bit, yeah. But I guess I didn't really get the sense that that took place in this chapter. Um,
Yeah,
but
no, me neither. No, I can't find a good place to put that. So we're just gonna leave that be where it is.
yeah, all right. Well, I'll take off your first section.
All right.
Tired as Paran was, he fought through the underbrush. He made it to a shadow under a tree, and the world shifted on him. Something bit him in the shoulder and threw him into the air. He landed hard and rolled to his knees. Looking up, he saw a hound. It closed the distance on Paran and bit again, taking him around the chest and again crushing through his armor and shaking Paran like a dog toy. His blood flying everywhere. Paran could feel Chance slipping out of its scabbard, away from his reach. Then the hound dropped him and appeared confused, whining and pacing back and forth. Paran hurt like hell, hardly able to breathe. A voice came and said that Rude needed someone to blame, but that Rude was premature, and the voice apologized for that. But the voice says there is a score to settle between the hounds and Paran. The hound is also confused about Paran. There's almost a kinship, but the voice doesn't know how that could be. Paran finally speaks and says that he is the one who possessed Sari. The man confirms that he is Cantilian and that Shadowthrone regrets leaving him outside Hood's gate, especially at the cost of 2 hounds. They'd lived for thousands of years, and no one, mortal or ascendant, had ever killed one before. Bran wondered if he saved their souls. Bran asks what Cantilian wants, his death, because that is moments away. Cantilian says he should have left them to their work, since he hates the Empress so much. Bran says what he did to Sari, and Cantilian interrupts him and says was merciful. It is true, he did use her, but she didn't know it. Can Paran say the same? Is knowing you're being used better than not knowing? Paran didn't answer. Cantilian says he can give all the memories to Sari. Everything he did while he possessed her, if he would like. Paran said no. His pain was returning, and Paran was surprised by this. He had lost so much blood, he was surprised he was even conscious. Paran asked what would he do now. Cantilian says he will start again, and Paran wants to know if he will use another girl like Sari. Cantilian says no, it was a flawed plan. Paran says that he stole her life from her. Cantilian says that her life has been returned to her, but since Paran still carries Chance, the same is not true for him. Paran mumbles about when his luck turns. He sees the sword an arm's length away. Cantilian simply laughs and says, by then it will be too late. It is a risk to assume the lady looks favorably at him. Whatever wisdom he may have had has been surrendered. That is the power of the twins. Paran says he is healing. Cantilian agrees. Through his armor, though his armor is in tatters, he can see. Sorry, I'm struggling to talk today. He can see healed skin under. Bran says that he does not understand him or Shadow Throne. Cantilian says he is not the only one who feels that way, and as for Chance, well, Bran tells Cantilian if he wants the sword, he can have it. Cantilian says the world is a complex place, and maybe he will have a change of heart, and asks if Bran has pity for those who use him. As Bran thought, he could feel weight coming off his shoulders. He told Cantilian that he had no pity for those who used him. Cantilian says that wisdom returns quickly when the bond is cut away. He will return him now, and gives Bran one last bit of advice. To do his best not to be noticed, and if he sees a hound again, to run. Pran wondered if he would run away from the hound or with it. As he returned to the estate, he heard Mallet calling for him. Pran let him know he was in the shadows. Mallet said there was trouble everywhere. Pran just told him to take care of it and that he's going after Lorne. If they all live through this, they're going to meet at the Phoenix Inn. And as Pran was leaving, Mallet called out one last time, telling Pran not to treat her kindly. So, pretty eventful start.
Yeah, definitely very, very eventful. I was definitely not expecting the chapter to start off like this at all.
No, and I was a little confused at first when like things shifted on Pran. I mean, I kind of got the sense it was maybe akin to like an elder vision that Raced went through, but probably not quite the same thing. Almost like he kind of went into a dream, like going into Krupp's dream or something. Is kind of what I thought a little bit.
Oh,
I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
sure. I always had interpreted it as just like the Hound and Cotillion coming out of a warren.
I I think Paran went somewhere else because otherwise Mallet and everybody else would have, they would have seen or heard something, him getting ravaged by a hound. But
Yeah,
maybe you're right. Maybe it was, through a warrant and, they drug him through or something.
it's possible. I guess, yeah, I get either scenarios I feel would I guess enhance the story or make the story work. But I'm kind of leaning towards your perspective of it.
But to me, it seems he was pulled somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, yeah. I guess
I guess I'm not terribly hung up on that, but uh,
it's just weird that, at the very end of the chapter, there isn't that nuance of him returning. It's just kind of like he's there. So that's more what drove me to think that it was just like a Warren opening. But
yeah, I guess yeah, it's not really explained at all, but it just goes somewhere for it kind of gets his ass kicked.
right, right. Uh, yeah, it's just this whole section. It was just so wonderfully written, and the whole Cotillion and the Hound and Paran, like they all have a very weird relationship with each other, just based off of a lot of the previous things that took place in this book.
Right.
So it's just, but Rude wasn't one of the hounds that got killed by Anamander Rake, right? Like I'm pretty certain that's the case.
I guess yeah, I don't even remember. That's something maybe we should have tracked a little bit better. Just the two that got taken out. Um, I guess maybe they. I don't remember. Maybe they weren't even named which ones went down. But
I don't remember them being named, but I'm sure that it was probably just like a really quick question or like a quick sentence is what I'm feeling, um, recalling that particular chapter.
yeah.
But
S- Speaking of the hounds, when Cotillion's saying that Rude feels almost a kinship to Brant, he says he doesn't know how that could be. So I guess I didn't know how to take that. Does Cotillion actually know something that we either don't know or we haven't picked up on, or as far as a relation, um, or does he actually not know? Um, is it sarcasm or is it genuine? I wasn't sure on that.
oh, I
Um,
didn't. Wow, yeah, I didn't even think of it being like coming from a place of sarcasm or like a sarcastic intent by any means. But I guess the way that I
okay.
interpreted that was I just I feel like that particular observation, or maybe Cotillion has the ability to sense his hounds, and being able to understand that, oh well, there's this kinship, but that's really weird because he pretty much almost obliterated gear. And I think that it's kind of it's something that is tying this situation with something that happened present or like past tense, but it's also tying it to something in the future. And so I think it's kind of a little bit of explanation slash foreshadowing. And the reason I think that is because I think that the kinship that Rude has or feels towards Paran that is getting, Cotillion's panties in a bunch a bit is the fact that I think this gives us our answer to when Paran helped the two hounds while he was stuck in the sword, Dragon Purr.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because I was thinking like, I was trying to think like, man, did I just totally miss something here? Like, how how could Paran have some sort of relationship, or be related to one of these hounds? Like, yeah, I was really just racking my brain trying to like think back and like, what did I miss? But no, you that makes a lot of sense. I think I think you're right on that.
Yeah. But I think it's an interesting premise because not only does it tie to something that had previously happened, but I think that you were right when you were initially talking about it in that I do feel that there is some type like a level of foreshadowing here with the whole kinship thing. And it's almost weird because like you want per I mean maybe you don't or like the reader doesn't want because Cotillion and Paran honestly they almost seem like they have the same agenda, but they're not really on the same side. So I feel like this kinship statement from Cotillion is maybe a little foreshadowing as to maybe Cotillion and Shadow Throne and Paran, and even potentially like the Bridge Burners all kind of get into cahoots with each other. So, like I said, there's just these really weird relationships between Shadow Throne, Paran, and then of course the Bridge Burners, which also extends to now Call and Crocus, Rallick. They've all met each other at this point. So, and it's not like I get the feeling that they're not necessarily on the same side, but they kind of are. Like they're all in their own way against the Empress. They all have
Yeah,
their own reasons for wanting to see her dethroned. So I think that it's inevitable that eventually they'll all kind of get together and maybe denounce her for good.
we will have to wait and see. And I feel like we're definitely not going to see that in this book because there's just not enough pages for I feel like something like that to happen right now. But I don't. Things almost aren't like I don't get the sense that we're getting a lot of things tied up. As far as plot points go, it's just we're getting more things set up still, which feels kind of weird so late into a book. So yeah,
Right.
I don't know what to expect.
I was over the week at work. This is one of because I work with librarians. So this was one of the things that I brought up. I was just like after reading this chapter, it's just like I've never really read a book where, things just don't come down. You know what I mean? And we'll explain more of that as we summarize the sections here, but I think that keeping that concept in the back of your mind that it in an extent it's not really like your traditional book, like you don't have this arc of rise to tension and then like slow rise away and then conclusion, you know
Yeah, for the most part, it's just been, I guess, we've kind of been just screaming down the roller coaster. There really wasn't a top. It's just all been downhill and flying through it.
right, right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's definitely and I mean it's definitely a good thing for me. It's not something that I would say takes away from the book or the author by any means, but it makes me enjoy it that much more.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot.
Um,
I mean, the whole way through.
but that brings me back around to kind of what I was talking about with Cotillion, Paran, and all of them kind of getting together is because Cotillion does have a little bit of regret for leaving him outside of Hood's Gate. Like if you recall from when that chapter after Sari kills Paran, we get this like very, dreamy type section with he's outside of Hood's Gate and like the gate itself is like writhing with bodies. And, he does hear like hounds approaching, but then uh during that time we've got we've got the twins who are talking to him and then they hear the hounds and then I'm assuming that it would have been like the Shadow Throne God that talks to Paran before he essentially comes back or wakes up.
Yeah.
So I think Cotillion has a little bit of regrets because obviously Paran has been I guess a pretty big roadblock in a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, he has, hasn't he? He's not made it easy.
No, definitely not. But what I guess what are you thinking about Paran's luck changing and the whole handing off of chance to Cotillion?
I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I think I feel like it's probably a good thing that he doesn't have chance, but I don't know. I'm not sure I can really form an opinion on it. Just because I feel like things could really just go either way. I mean, we've seen him, you know, he just about got killed here. How many times have we seen him nearly die? Like, I feel like if we see it again, is the third time his luck's gonna, run out, he's really gonna be dead. I don't know.
I suppose,
If
yeah,
if something happens again.
yeah, that is interesting that you're bringing it up. And immediately as you're bringing that up, it reminds me of the show Supernatural, where essentially the main characters die a lot and come back a lot, to the point where it's kind of like, okay, come on, like just fucking die already, and stay dead. Um, but I mean, I definitely don't get that feeling here by any means. But the way that I'm interpreting Chance and Cotillion is that it's always been told to Paran that when your luck changes, give the sword to your worst enemy or break it. So one, I'm thinking that the twins don't have any way of removing their power from the sword, which is concerning on multiple levels. I don't even know where to begin to explain where that the possibilities lie with that. Two, is Paran giving it to Cotillion for revenge purposes against the twins for using him? Or three, is he giving it to Cotillion because it's his worst enemy? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the sword could go two ways with Paran giving it up because clearly the sword has some type of luck with it or unluck, if that's what that phrase means. So, is he giving it to Cotillion because the sword is no longer lucky? And so therefore Cotillion is in Paran's eyes probably going to fail? Or is the sword still have some luck and therefore can be taken out against Opon, which I feel is Paran's biggest enemy at this point, outside of Lorne.
I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. Um, I probably never would have thought of your second option there, that he gave it to Cotillion to use against Open. Even though, well, yeah, I'm not going to jump too far ahead. We'll get there.
Right.
This is hard sometimes to be careful about what we say.
Right, yeah, we don't want to give away talking points because then we may not have anything to talk about when we get there. No, that makes
Right.
I guess the only thing that like really confused me was how the hell was he healing? Do you think that like Cotillion was restoring him in some way?
Yeah, I don't know where that was coming from either, or I'm not sure, anyways. Um, But I mean, the only other person there was Cotillion, so it had to have been something he was involved with, I would think.
That's what I would think too. But I mean, we've got one chapter left, so I really don't know if we'll get that answer. So,
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that will probably just remain speculation for now.
I think so. I think kind of one of my last points in this section, just I thought it was interesting how Paran was still, in a sense, fighting to protect Sari. Cotillion says, "Well, I could give her back all these memories if you want. What I did." And he says, "No, don't do that. You've done an. I I feel like he thinks he's already done enough damage to Sari by just simply by possessing her, and he doesn't want any more done to her."
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm I'm struggling to find the motivation there because it's not like Sari and Paran have spent an awful lot of time together, you know. I think that it's more one of those things where I don't think it's a relationship or a bond between the two. I think it's just this is showing us Paran's humanity, and I think that this appeals to him as a character and that he does have a lot of empathy for this small child, or well, not small child, but this very young woman.
Yeah, because I guess I don't remember. Did we ever really get an age on Sari?
I don't think we did. I want to say we concluded that she was like 17, but that
Oh,
was
I guess I didn't remember her being that old. I thought she was younger than that, so I kind of took it as he's just trying to protect this innocent child. I mean, she'd done horrible things, not on her own, but because she was possessed. But she shouldn't have to relive that. But I think that goes into a lot of what you're saying. That he's got compassion and empathy for it.
right. Yeah. I think it's just a play to make Paran a more likable character than he probably already is. Um,
Yeah, I guess I never really got the sense that he was unlikable.
right, right. Well, hey, I mean, with this book, anything's possible. So, yeah,
That's true.
he could have very well turned into a dick in many of the things that happened to him afterwards.
Yes, yeah, it's possible. Surprising that he didn't.
Right, right. I guess the only other thing that I have for this particular section is, do you find it a little bit odd that Cotillion gives Paran the same advice that what I'm assuming was Whiskey Jack back in the prologue? And
You
that,
might have to remind me on that.
well, remember back in the prologue when very young Paran was talking to Corporal or Captain, I forget what it was, and that person gave him advice to not be noticed, and that
Oh,
Cotillion does the same thing here.
that
But my,
is interesting.
but my question is like, going back through the book, what specifically was it that drew Paran to Opon? Because it's not like I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like he did something like so superstarish, that he turns from a mortal to a god or anything.
Or do you think it was the other way around, where Open was drawn to Paran,
Very well could be. Maybe for things that we don't know yet.
or just that he's? I mean, I guess I don't really want to say unremarkable, but just kind of normal-ish.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the things that he's done would not be outside. I mean, well, prior to the events that have made him more remarkable as the book has gone on. But, when we were first introduced to him and, even with the scene with Opon and the twins at Hood's Gate, I up from that point back to the beginning of the book, like I can't recall anything that would have made him noticed.
Yeah, he hadn't really done anything. Somebody would make a song about. You know,
Yeah. A Gleeman song.
right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's kind of where like maybe this is just one of those things that will all be revealed in good time. I'm assuming that I would imagine that in the books to follow, there may be some points of reflection, either from Paran's perspective or potentially from a third party's perspective that we have no idea who could have been involved in these usings.
Yeah, we'll just have to get there, I guess, huh? And see. Hopefully, it's something that we'll get information on.
I hope so too. And I think that's I think the beauty of it, and something that's getting me really excited to read on is just there's so many things that I wouldn't say are left untied. Like that's probably a bad way to describe it, but there's definitely some things that I look forward to clarification on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Just there's definitely a lot that's up in the air, or we just don't know for sure. So to get the resolve will be good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I don't those are all the thoughts I had for that section. I don't know if you had um any more to add to that before we move on, but if you're good, I'm good.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm ready for you.
Sweet. The images burned into Crocus's head, his thoughts moved by panic and desperation. Uncle Mammoth was dead. The man who had been dragged down by the roots was not the man that Crocus had grown up with, but that of something else. Plagued by the repeating nature of this thought, that Mammoth had become something more horrific. What he had seen and witnessed would not leave him. The central chamber of Lady Simitel's estate lay deserted. Objects lay scattered on the floor, along with bodies and pools of blood. Crocus raced across the room and opened the front doors. The stairs leading down to the front gate had a bluish tint. As he approached the front gate slowly, something felt odd about the street. Like Lady Simitel's estate, there was not a sight of a single person in the street. A thick silence fell over the street. He felt utterly alone. But something Rallick had said to him a couple days ago kept him going. With the streets empty, it shouldn't take long to run to Baruch's estate. Running, Crocus skids to a halt as he hears something. So looking overhead, Crocus shouts, and he like instinctively ducks. So he like screams and ducks. Inches from the tallest building, Moonspawn had arrived. Crocus wondered what it could mean. Baruch would know. Crocus resumes his run to reach Baruch's estate. Damn, I can't even imagine what Crocus is going through at this point. Like, he's going to be emotionally fucked up for a long time, and I just can't help but feel for him. You know, part of me still wants to hang on to the hope that Mammon isn't dead, but I feel like this is kind of confirming that.
Yeah, I know there's been a couple. Well, I guess Talk is really the only one I'm not convinced is actually dead, but I'm pretty convinced Mammoth's dead.
R- Right. But I mean,
He
like,
got hit by like basically a fucking cannonball.
yeah, and then this cannonball essentially got dragged down by this unknown thing into the depths of the earth and what we're assuming locked away, so
I think it's kind of interesting that he's not really connecting the dots that oh, Moonspawn's like about to fucking step on us, like it's right here above us, and everybody's gone from the streets. Like I know because we were talking last episode, we didn't know how Rake was going to accomplish this, and I was kind of joking around like, oh, maybe he's going to climb the tower and call lightning down or whatever, or something to that effect, and he brings Moonspawn right here, and like to me, I would think that would be fairly obvious that okay, well here's this giant fucking rock that could just fall out of the sky and crush us. Like that's probably why everybody got out. That's why everybody ran off.
I didn't even I didn't wow, I didn't even connect the dots there. That makes so much more sense. And now
this is this is
ugh,
why this is fun to do because we both see things so differently. Like to me, that was in my mind like, well, it was pretty obvious, but obviously you were seeing something different, and so I'm interested to get your take on it then and what you're thinking.
I just thought it was all from the commotion of what was happening at Lady Simitel's estate. Like I thought that what I could only imagine was mass hysteria after this like fucked up shit is going down. Sorceries flying everywhere. There's this giant well, maybe not giant, but a Jagat possessed mammoth flinging sorceries and just the mass hysteria of everybody being cut down and reacting to that. We're just flying out of Lady Scimitar's estate and going into the streets. And once there's a group of people running away from something, more often than not, other people are just going to be like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just gonna this looks bad, you know. So that's where my mind was going with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's funny that you brought up the streets being empty because it felt really weird to me because throughout this whole book, the city has always been painted as busy or bustling, right? And to have it consistently written that way makes the description of the city empty more powerful to us. I just thought that was brilliant. Like
Yeah, it's. I mean, I get like I guess like a comparison. They say what they say. There's like 300,000 people in Druzhstan,
I said,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
somewhere around there. So it's. I mean, that's roughly. It's got to be roughly. So like in my mind, I'm thinking it's roughly the size of Minneapolis. Not the suburbs and everything surrounding it, but just I think the population of Minneapolis is around 300,000. So if you just thought like everybody there, even if you just you take like the football stadium, U.S. Bank, like you can get what 65,000 people in there or something like that for a football game, and you just watched, you know, everybody screaming and cheering in the game, and then in like 2 minutes it's just empty. Like that would be eerie as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And of course, it doesn't add to Crocus's already like emotionally damaged state, right? Like he truly feels alone, and I feel so bad for him. Like I want to like jump into the book and like there, buddy, there, you know.
You just can't tell him that things are going to be all right because we just don't know. he he might get fucked here pretty quick. I don't know.
We'll have to read on and then come back and there and let him know what's.
Yeah,
We'll have to spoil it for Crocus.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, ooh, I know it was like a super short little section, but I feel like there was a lot to talk about with just what was told to us as the readers. And I think that I had written in the summary here, Crocus wondered what Moonspawn arriving could mean. And I think that more than likely now that I understand that it was likely the reason why the streets were cleared, that this is potentially what Baruch would tell Crocus too. Because I know that Crocus was like, oh, well, I don't know what this means, why Moonspawn is so damn close to the city, but Baruch would know. So I think that maybe in the next chapter, hopefully, we get maybe a little answer to that.
Just some confirmation. I mean, to me, it all makes sense. Rake wanted to get to the tallest point in the city. I assume so he could, yeah, I guess, steer Moonspawn, to where he needed to position it. I guess, um, to probably freak everybody out and get them to, go inside or flee the city.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you've predicted that one well. I think that that is what Baruch will tell Crocus.
If we see that, if it's something we get confirmation on.
Yeah, well, if we don't, hopefully that is confirmation in the books to come, preferably the next book.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
That's right. Yeah, I don't have any other comments or concerns or things to point out in this very short section. Do you want to take your gluttonous section here?
Well, it's not gluttonous because it's long. It's gluttonous probably because of our subject in it.
Right, right. Well, take her away whenever you're ready, man.
All right. Krupp inhaled a deep breath as he looked around the abandoned kitchen. He rubbed his belly and thought, this is always the way of things. His dreams always come true. Things may not be clear yet within the pattern, but he sensed all was well with the world. He took another deep breath and thought they would have to wait on the coin to stop spinning. But in the meantime, he had plenty of food in front of him to enjoy.
What a fatty McButterpants, huh?
Yeah, you know, I really haven't been too sure what I thought of Krupp, but it's almost getting a little annoying, like that he's just constantly thinking about like food. Like he's
Yeah,
like his dream stuff has definitely been interesting, but and then we get this. I'm just like, why?
that is true. However, I have a theory now that I'm thinking about
Oh,
it.
okay.
Is it almost too coincidental that he enjoys food too much? Like, is this simply just a character trait? Or is this like, does him being able to see the pattern, like, is that associated with food for him? Like, in order for him to see the pattern or even to like sleep, he needs to be full of food so that yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just, but think about it, right? Like, Circle Breaker ran across him and he was passed out, but that was after he gorged himself. And then we we have him in his dream where he essentially pulls Race in. Maybe it's just fuel, like literally, like genuine magical fuel for him to do so. I guess I go back to, I guess you would understand this, people who haven't read it, but Nynaeve, before she fully starts to wield, always gets angry in order to do so. So I'm wondering if this is maybe like a crutch for Krupp potentially, or yeah, I don't know, something with him being able to either see the pattern, or maybe the pattern in his dreams like wipe him out so much that he has to like eat. That's
Dude,
just
that is such a good theory that it's so good it has to be true. Like even if it's not, like I'm gonna think that's true from now on.
right, which kind of makes me feel a little bad that we're always like knocking on his weight, and not that, okay, yeah, I'm totally fat shaming Krupp, but that's not me in the real world, so to speak. That's me in this book. But yeah,
Like
it's just
the
interesting.
the fatter he gets, the more powerful he's gonna be. So like if he turns into like Jabba the Hutt, is he gonna be?
Maybe it's possible. Uh, who knows? But it's just it's got to be it's either just a very weird character quirk or there's something more there. I mean, there has to be.
I, I've never thought of that, but I want to go with that. There's got to be something more there. I like it a lot.
Cool, cool. Yeah, that just came to me as I was thinking about this section while you were summarizing it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds weird.
We'll
Yeah,
roll with it.
let's roll. Krupp's definitely rolling. Uh,
Yeah,
rolling food down his throat.
wasn't even trying to go there, but there it went.
There it went. There he goes. Yeah, I guess this is a small section. I don't really have much more for that one.
No, me neither. You definitely brought a lot more out of it than I thought we were going to get because I really didn't have anything. So
Hell yeah. Um, cool. Well, I'm ready to roll on if you are.
yeah, go ahead.
Cool. In an alley facing Lady Scimitar's estate, Lorne watched as Crocus ran into the street, her lips curving into a smile. Minutes earlier, she had felt the Jaghut's death. Lorne had hoped that the Jaghut would have reached the city and retrieved the Finnest, so that the Son of Darkness would have a challenge. Lorne suspects that the Son of Darkness would never have allowed such actions, which meant that Whiskey Jack still lived. She watched as the coin bearer ran into the street, not even aware of Moonspawn overhead. With the coin in the Empress's hands, she would bring Opon to their knees. The adjunct has a moment where she questions the doubts she's been having. Quickly dispelling these thoughts, she tells herself that Lorne is dead, and that it was the arm of the Empress, and that she was the arm of the Empress. She paused and hid against a wall as she saw Crocus stopped at a corner, looking up at the hovering moonspawn. She thought about taking him out right there, but he continued on running. She then crouches down and removes a small flask from her shirt and holds it up to the glow of Jerusalem's gas torches. Inside the flask, smoke swirled. Lauren hoped that the Jaghut tyrant was able to damage the Lord of Moonspawn. She rose and then threw the flask across the street. The flask broke on the wall and landed on the street. The red smoke curled upward, taking a form. The adjunct spoke. You know your task, Lord of the Galen. Succeed, and freedom will be yours. Unsheathing her sword, she closed her eyes, locating the coin bearer in her mind. He was fast, but she was faster. When Lauren moved, it was a blur, quicker than any eye could follow. Even the Galen Lord, let loose on the mortal plane. I guess the one thing that I had a hard time kind of understanding, and I feel like I made sense of it, but to the point where I no longer question it. But how was Lauren able to to deduce that Whiskey Jack was still alive, based on the fact that the Son of Darkness would have never allowed Reyes to retrieve the Finnest? So, is she saying this because the Jaghut wasn't able to get his Finnest, thus being able to completely destroy everyone? Kind of dark thoughts for her there. So I guess the way that I'm interpreting that is if Reyes had been able to reach the Finnest, there would be no possibility that Reyes was dead. Or that Whiskey Jack would be alive. Because everybody in the city would have likely been obliterated, is kind of where her thought is going, in my opinion, I guess. So the fact that he didn't retrieve the Finnest, and the fact that she was able to feel the Jaghut's death, now allows her to realize that Whiskey Jack is still alive. Does that make
Well,
sense?
they were all, yeah, they were all close to the finish. So I mean, if Race would have got it, yeah, he would have killed everything within sight. They wouldn't have, they would have been like some of the first to be added to his casualty list.
Right. I just, I think it's really, I almost kind of feel like Lauren is a bit, what's that term? Um, where not a split personality, but where you have like opposite personalities. I forget what that
Like
term is.
you got like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other kind of deal.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely, kind of like that, but it's more that I think what I'm going for is the word that would be like some type of mental illness, some type of what is that term? Bipolar. Bipolar. There we go. I feel like Lauren is a bit bipolar, especially in this section, because she's always like up until she met Tool, she's just kind of been this, arm of the Empress, so to speak. But then after Tool, she started having all of these doubts, right? Like all of these really, to the reader, very emotional connecting moments. But now in this section, she seems to like she's gone back to how she was in the beginning of the book, and like, the first third of the book, I would say. And it kind of seems like she's made up her mind here. For some reason, like I feel like she's no longer allowing those doubts to sink in, which could have changed the way that she's reacted or acted as a person. And she's finally decided, like, nope, I'm the arm of the Empress. Like, that's how it's going to be. Lorne, the human, is dead.
I think just I'm gonna kind of take a tangent off what you just said there, but I feel like that line is a little bit of foreshadowing for this chapter.
I didn't even put that together. Yep. Yep. I see that. Totally do.
I kind of just thought of it. I mean, I definitely didn't think of it at the time, but just it's interesting what we pick up on. After, we read this and then we do our summaries, and as you're reading it, I'm reading along with you as you're talking, and definitely gives you a different perspective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I
So I
almost,
didn't mean to derail your train of thought there.
no, no, my train of thought was done. I'm caught up with, like, I feel like, as tedious as some of this work is, I almost feel like this is one of the best ways to really understand a book, you know? And maybe I should have learned that in school because they made us read a lot of shit and then write about it. I didn't give a shit back then. It makes so much more sense. Like everything's so much more vivid. Everything I just understand the level of I guess enjoyment I'm getting out of going back and not only reading the chapter a few times but summarizing it, you know. Granted not everything,
Right.
but summarizing a half of a chapter makes everything kind of come together and then when we come and talk about it, it just adds like another layer on top of it, just making that overall visual that much more better.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. I agree with you.
Um, so she feels the Jaghut's death, right? So what is it that Mamet is now? I mean,
Dead.
but is it just like is it a combination of like Omotos Falak and then I forget whatever Warren, the Daris Warren? No, that's not right. But whatever, is it just like is this thing that Crocus that was dragged down into the pits of the earth? Is this thing just a combination of like did they just make one big badass fucking monster? Like
Oh, the Azaf.
yeah, yeah, I mean is yeah, I don't know. I mean we there's confirmation in this chapter of Mammoth and the Jaghut dying. So what is it that is still living? And I know that we probably won't find an answer, being that we only have one chapter and an epilogue left. So yeah, I just I find myself anxious as to how much more fucked up is this thing than anything we've came across so far.
I kind of felt like, well, so Mammoth's dead. The Jaghut's body is dead, but its soul survived. And this, as if, however we want to pronounce that, is like a prison for its soul.
Ah,
The Jaghut's soul is kind of how I took it, you know. So, that wasn't destroyed in the explosion, and now it's not going to be able to assume another body.
gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. I like that. We'll stick with that.
All right.
Cool. So, Lord of the Gayland, huh? What I can only assume based on previous descriptions of vials, glass vials that are thrown, that this is some type of demon. One that I would assume can hopefully take out the Lord of Moonspawn because Lorne here is hoping that the Jaghut was able to damage the Lord of Moonspawn enough to where hopefully this whatever this Lord of the Galen is, being able to take him out. So
So you're rooting for Rake to find his demise. You don't want him to survive.
no, I'm hoping he does. This was the fucked up part of this goddamn chapter, and it's the second to last chapter of the book, and they're releasing a fucking demon on the city of Jerujistan. Like, how the fuck is this supposed to end? I mean, like this is what I'm talking about when I'm like it doesn't really follow the traditional arc of most stories. In other books that I've read, each book in like the series kind of had its own conclusion and then that just built off of it. You know what I mean? Like I just was hoping for the tension to die a little bit and then I read this chapter and I'm like, well, fuck. So,
Yeah, I don't know what kind of conclusion we're gonna get here.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'll find out tonight.
We'll know sometime. Yeah, well you'll know tonight, and then sometime this week here I'll find out.
Right, right. But yeah, I mean, I guess those were my only thoughts on that section.
I don't think I've got anything to add to that.
Alrighty then.
All right, next section. Brooke held his head in his hands. Mammoth's death was hitting him hard. Rake had suspected, but did not speak on the matter since he thought it was a sensitive topic. Baruch cautiously admitted to himself that he must have been right, but he didn't know if he would have believed Rake. Though the power that possessed Mammoth must have shielded itself as to not be detected. Again, Rake anticipated that Baruch would not be happy with the suggestion and kept it to himself. Now Mammoth and the Jagat were dead. Was it Rake who did it? If so, it was a small mercy that he didn't use his sword. Baruch thought he was able to hear some kind of relief in Mammoth's death cry. He heard a cough at the door. It was Derridin. She said she was here because she thought of him at Mammoth's death. Baruch was slightly annoyed at her presence because he wanted to mourn his friend alone. Derridin's warren was Tens, an old warren that followed the cycle of the seasons. Her greatest power was one she shared, the one named the tusk named Love. Then he realized she was bringing him a gift. Derridin sat down, and Baruch told her that Rake didn't think things were over. She said she saw Mammoth's end. He was opposed by her and a, quote, remarkable wizard. Mammoth's body was destroyed by a Moranth bomb, and the Jaghut soul survived, but was taken by an Azath. This surprised Baruch. He asked where it was. Derridin said it was in the Simtal estate. Derridin thought that there were some odd guests at the party. Baruch asks if they were Malazans. She says her life was saved twice by the wizard she spoke of, and that he had control of 7 warrens. Baruch is taken aback by the news, wondering if that's even possible. Derridin says they have bad intentions. If they have bad intentions, it will be up to Rake to stand up to them. They both felt a power spike, and both knew a demon was set loose in the city. A demon lord, no less. This is what Rake had been waiting for. Derridin asked if Rake could defeat the demon. Baruch didn't know, but if he could not, then the city was fucked. They both felt as 2 of the Cabal were killed, violently. Baruch said it had begun, and damn Rake for being correct. Derridin looked at Baruch with a blank expression, and he said only one word in reply. Vorkin. So, this section confused me a little bit, so I'm hoping maybe you can clear up some of it for me. When we're talking about Derridin's warren, and then her greatest power is a power that she shares, but it's one of the 5 tusks, the one named Love. I didn't understand what this gift was that she was bringing him, unless it was just information. I don't know. What did you have thoughts on that? Did you pick up what this gift was? Because otherwise it went over my head.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, it was worded really weird, but I got the sense that it's Derudin, her compassion to seek out Mammoth, or not Mammoth, Baruch, even though he kind of wanted to be alone to grieve. But I think that Baruch realizes that it's a gift because
Okay.
she's being compassionate towards the situation. And so I don't think that the sentence where he realized she was bringing him a gift had anything to do with the description of her warrens.
Okay.
Yeah. Is how
Yeah, I was definitely it. The way it was written did not make sense to me. So you definitely cleared it up then.
Oh, okay. Cool. Glad I could help. Does this give you any type of I guess some retroactive insight as to many of the Baruch Rake conversations throughout this book? Because how many times has Rake kind of challenged Baruch on the way that Baruch thought about certain situations?
What are you thinking here?
So, for
Where are you going?
example, right, like do you remember when Rake was telling Baruch that the Malazans were trying to establish contact with the Assassin's Guild? And Rake knew
Yes.
that's why he interceded. Rake knew that they were going to take out Jerujasan's quote unquote true rulers. And Baruch simply just said, I have that handled. But he didn't. He clearly didn't. So, and now that has come to fruition. Like Vorkan accepted the Malazan's contract, and now both of them have felt 2 of their Cabal members die.
So as I was reading this, when the other 2 members were killed, I think it was maybe just again kind of how things were laid out or written, but I thought it was the demon that killed them, just as it was, ripping through the city, um, it took me a while to realize that it was Vorkin and not the demon. It threw me off a little bit
Oh, it
when I finally realized that. I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't know why I didn't put that together right away, but it.
no, I when I first read it too, that's what I thought as well. So you're not alone. Once he mouthed or said Vorkan, I'm like, oh right, she's supposed to be killing Cabal members.
Right.
But
Just
yeah,
took me a little bit to remember that.
I think what he's going for in the section is just to try to, you know, obviously Baruch isn't going to get the the time to grieve that he wants to, because as much as he doesn't want Derudin there, uh, more or less comforting him, she is, and he realizes that that's a gift in itself. But then also now all of a sudden you've got the being able to sense that the demon has been unleashed, and not only just a demon, but a fucking powerful one. And then on top of that, two Cabal members like feeling that, on top of the grief that he's got for Mamet. So I think this section was just trying to like establish to the reader that there's lots of things to react to going on right now.
Oh yeah, I mean there clearly is because I mean I didn't remember everything that was going on, and it's like if something like that were really going on. I mean, it's easy to see how confusing things would be. You got a fucking monster running around, and then you got the Assassin's Guild master running around murdering people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very impactful section. But also I feel it's not really a transitional piece, but it's kind of a like a clarity section. It brings clarity as to, what happened to Mamet, as well as some of the previous conversations between Baruch and Rake.
Yeah, and the other big takeaway is we find out that uh, it's Quick Ben. He's got 7 warrens, and that was kind of a shock. I mean, not only did it Baruch, but I mean it was for me when I read it. I'm sure it was for you too. You're like 7. I mean, it
Right.
seems kind of crazy that he's going to have control over that many. So he must be a kind of a big deal. He must be a bigger badass than we know.
Than we think. Right. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And it also, I'm assuming their amazement and their surprise is that like this is probably something that either has never happened before or is unheard of or rare among.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I guess I don't really have too many more thoughts on that particular section.
No, that was kind of the last thing that I had, and then you clearing up some stuff for me, which I appreciate. So thank you.
Yeah, anytime. All right. Standing on the rooftop of Carul's belfry, Animander Rake felt the wind through his hair. Briefly glancing at Moonspawn overhead, he could feel its pain. He felt an ounce of regret. Air surged near him and he heard the sounds of wings flapping. Smiling, Rake says, Solana, and the red dragon approaches Rake. Rake tells her that he knows that she senses the Lord Demon and that her battle is over. So Solana should go back to Moonspawn and get some rest. Rake continues on to explain to her that the battle with the Lord Demon is his. But if he should fail, Solana has the permission to avenge his death. The red dragon circles, letting out a cry, and then heads west towards Moonspawn. Reek senses a presence next to him and then addresses this presence and says that it is unwise to appear unannounced. The man next to him sighs and tells Rake that the stones beneath Rake's feet are newly sanctified, and the man has been reborn. Rake responds to this man by telling him that there is no place for an eldering god in this world, and that he should trust Rake's word on this. Karul agrees and tells Rake that he had planned to return to the realm of chaos, and he was going to take the Jaghut tyrant, but had been evaded. Rake is grateful that the Jaghut was imprisoned elsewhere. Karul agrees. There was a long silence between the two. Karul breaks the silence by asking Rake if he should follow in Rake's footsteps and were there rewards of spirit. Rake answers Karul by telling him that sometimes, but most often it's not. Karul asks Rake why he does it then. Rake answers that it's all he knows to do. It's all that he knows how to do. Karul admits that he's unable to assist Rake tonight and reveals to us that he's just a manifestation. Rake makes a promise to Karul that he'll make sure to avoid damaging the temple. Karul bows and then vanishes. Rake was alone again, and he turns his attention to the street. He could see an apparition arrive in the street. He observed it pause to sniff the air, then began changing, veering. Rake recognized it as a lord of the Galen, and soul taken. Rake whispers to himself, "So am I." Rake spread open his arms, his caruled Galen warren surrounded him. He turns himself into a motherfucking dragon. Flying through the air, he looks down onto the city of Darujistan. Sorcery caught his attention here and there. He sensed death from those flickers of sorcery. He wondered if the message was delivered by Surat, courtesy of a foul mage he'd thought 1,000 miles away. He couldn't worry about that now. The battle was right before him. The Empire and Empress had challenged him again and again. Each time he'd withdrawn, unwilling to commit himself. This time was different. Anomander Rake tucked in his wings and plummeted towards the city of Darujistan. Newly sanctified. So my question here was, does this mean that like people are worshiping Karul again? Like, is there a certain number of people that need to worship him for him to be reborn?
You're asking the big questions.
Like, I just think it's interesting, like he seems to be, a god of long past. And I remember a particular part in the book where I think it was Reyes who was talking about, people, or maybe it wasn't Reyes, but somewhere in the book it was somebody said something about when people stop worshiping those gods die, which totally makes sense as to why gods serve the people.
Wasn't that when Quick Ben went to Shadow Throne's realm?
It might have been, yeah.
Feels like that would have been like a kind of an appropriate conversation then, but maybe I could be wrong on that.
But that means that people are worshiping Shadow Throne. Like, there are enough people out there, I guess believe is a bad word, but I can't think of a better word for it, that worship and believe that Shadow Throne is for them. Interesting. I never really put like those two and two together.
Well, do you think that like I kind of get to the sense that people don't just like worship one of these gods, right? Like it might be, maybe it might be a few of them they worship. I guess depending on the individual, but it's and you're gonna have your ones that are devoted to a single one of them. Like we found out about Quick Ben. He used to be I can't remember the word, so we're just gonna use priest. A priest for Shadow Throne, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just like the common folk, like they're probably worshiping multiple gods, right? I would think.
Right. Polytheistic. Yeah.
Big words, Justin.
Sorry. Yes. Worshipping more than one god. Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose, it might be like the Greeks, where there were gods for different things. I guess there could very well be a similar thing where it's maybe not just one god that each person is devoted to, but many, like you're saying. Yeah. But I
So
mean,
that, I guess just where I was going with that is, maybe they're worshiping changes from time to time. So if you're thinking, they need a certain number of people, then yeah, maybe it's getting close to that number of people for them to be reborn.
fair enough. I like that. I think that it's I guess I kind of feel bad for K. Rule a bit. Uh, not that we, the reader, really get any type of intimacy or any type of backstory with this elder god yet. Hopefully, there's some. That would be cool. but he seems modest and humble and willing to help, which I think are all good things for a god slash ruler. And I kind of wonder why he had been forgotten in the first place. And this may be related to the changes that you were bringing up, but he seems like a cool guy. I like him. I don't understand how or why, or did he get killed? Maybe. I can't help but wonder what has got him forgotten.
Yeah, I don't know. I it would be interesting to find out
It would be really interesting.
why he's just not, yeah, why is he not relevant anymore, or at least
Exactly.
certainly a lot less.
Yeah, I guess the my other question with K. Rule here is, if it's just a manifestation, but I totally thought by the whole rebirth statement that he was there physically. But I think that may be just something I didn't expect. And now that K. Rool has revealed that he can manifest here as well as in like mortals' dreams, with all the events that surround the K. Rool Tower, how much has he witnessed? Like did he see Ocelot get killed? Was he there protecting Sari and Crocus or Apsalar while they were up there? Um, I don't think the protection thing, but just kind of overseeing, or is that potentially how Sari was able to see in the dark so well? Um, I don't know. I just one of those weird things where I can't really associate it to anything. But if he's a manifestation, how much has he witnessed with a lot of the events that have happened on the Belfry? K. Rool's tower.
There's potential for him to have seen a lot. But yeah, it's hard to say for sure how much, if anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just one of those things that like exists as a thought, but I don't really have any like real conclusive like anything to tie it to. It's just kind of more or less like what has he seen?
Just a deep thought from Justin.
Right, right. Soft pillows, deep thoughts. Soft or deep thoughts with soft pillows. Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So, Rake is a fucking dragon. Rake has turned into a dragon. So, I think that Soul Taken, I guess we were right? We kind of deduced that it was like a shapeshifter of some kind in all of those episodes ago, and that kind of seems to be the case here because he's changed himself into a fucking dragon.
Yeah, that was really cool. I didn't. I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah. I also really loved the description, and I mean, reading it definitely does it more justice than what I wrote down. But a black dragon with silver hair, right? So, like, you can kind of imagine Hanamander's silver white hair, being twice as large as Solana, and just like I said, description was amazing. I did nowhere near it justice. It was a cool visual.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed this whole section. It was the whole book's been written really well, but there's things that just stick out to you. That was one of them, I think.
Right. And then, does this make Rake's dragon mask that much more revealing? Because, we always knew that he had an association with the dragon, but do you remember when they were in the carriage on the way to the fete, where Baruch was just like staring at the mask and he was just like, there's a secret there. I know it. Do you think?
Yeah, it seems there was definitely probably some foreshadowing there. It's just too on the nose to like. I think obviously Rake picked the Black Dragon mask because he's a dragon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Has to be.
And now that we're speaking of masks, and I know that I meant to write this somewhere in the summary, but I think I forgot to do it. But now that makes so much more sense to Mammoth's mask. That was complete foreshadowing. Looking back at it, because he was a Jaghut featured masked. That meant that he was the
Oh.
best, or that the while he was quote unquote trapped inside of the barrow, that that link was there. It was just masked. Like none of the other mages could detect that.
Did not even think of that. You're right.
Yeah.
I remember you wondering, like, how is this going to make sense? It did, because you thought it didn't, but now it does, and yeah, I didn't put them puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, it's just weird how like I don't know those things just clicked for me because I knew that the only two masks that I didn't really understand were rakes. Although like I accepted the fact that uh he has an association with dragons, so that must have been the reason why he picked the mask. So I just kind of like okay, well it is what it is. But Mammoth was the only one where I was just like I really can't make sense of what this mask actually, pertains to the character. But now I do. So I think that was just
Yeah,
really
nice
clever writing.
catch.
Yeah.
That's a good catch, but yeah, that's good.
I guess the only other really weird thing about this was I didn't really quite get the whole. He wondered if the message was delivered by Sarah, courtesy of a foul mage he'd thought 1,000 miles away. So I mean, I know that the flickers of sorcery, I'm wondering if they might be like he's sensing Vorkan executing Cabal members, but I'm intrigued as to what message. I'm sure that maybe I missed something, but what is Rake referring to with this thought about a foul mage he thought thousands of miles away?
I don't know. I'm kind of in the same place you are. I wasn't sure on that.
Hmm. All right, well, maybe we'll get some answers in the next chapter. I doubt it. I mean, I find it hard for a 10-page chapter to wrap all this up.
I think we have 30 pages left in the book.
I thought the last chapter was like 10 or 12 pages.
We start on 637 and it goes to 652. And then we've got a couple pages for the epilogue.
Oh, that's like 15 pages.
637, and we have two.
652, you said.
And 657 is, well, do I mean 20 pages?
Oh,
20 pages left of this book?
well,
I can't do math today.
it's all good. Neither can I, apparently. But yeah, I mean, even
So, yeah,
20 pages.
we don't have much. Yeah, there's not a lot of time to answer a lot of these questions we have.
Not at all. Not at all. But yeah, okay. I mean, those were uh those were my only hot takes, so to speak, for that section there with Karul and the dragon Rake and yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yes, very interesting. Do you wanna take her out? You wanna take her away on the next section here?
Yep, we can do that. Glam knew the patterns the saboteurs would use for detonation. He ran down the streets, paying no mind to the fact that Moonspawn was hanging out just above the city. Fiddler and Hedge wouldn't give a damn either. They had a job to do. As Clam ran, he crossed a street intersection diagonally. At the end of the street was Majesty Hill. He nearly ran into Fiddler and Hedge. They didn't even seem to recognize him, and they looked scared as they passed. They looked scared. As they passed him, he reached back and grabbed them by their cloaks. He fell trying to stop them. The two picked him up and recognized who he was, just as Fiddler had his sword inches away from his face. Kalam tells him to put it away. He doesn't want to get an infection. Hedge says they're getting the hell out of Dodge. Kalam wants to know what's going on. Fiddler reluctantly pointed up the street at a 12-foot monster with a two-bladed axe. Kalam says they're in some real pretty shit now. That's Tayshren's precious lord. Tells them to get back to the estate. As the two saboteurs ran down the street, Kalam hid around the corner. As the monster came back into view, he yelled soul taken. Now things were interesting, he thought. He turned to run and catch up with Fiddler and Hedge. I guess maybe it's important to note that towards the end of this, Kalam does notice how it's it's like in a form similar to a dragon. Whatever this this demon is, that's the form it's taken at the moment.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. And 12-foot monster, like holy shit, dude. Like 12 feet. Like I would be shitting my pants if I saw that like coming down the street holding a two-bladed axe.
Yeah, that's why Fiddler and Hedge were getting the hell out of there.
Right. But my only question is like, does soul taken mean you transform into whatever you want, or can even possibly imagine? Or is this like something definitive that exists? And you can only like
Yeah, I don't know. Is it kind of like the Animorphs or something, where you can only turn into something if you've like touched it?
right. Wow, taking me back, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I I liked in this. It's a pretty tense moment. Fiddler and Hedge are scared out of their minds, but there's still a little humor in the situation. you know, it this scene reminded me a lot of Alien 3. Um, you've seen that
Yeah. They're running in the
where
tunnel.
they're running in the tunnel, and then the one guy's got a pair of scissors, and they run into another guy, and the one guy's all pissed off because he's not carrying it the right way. He says, "You're gonna fucking kill somebody like this," as there's a an 8-9 foot monster running around there killing everybody. Um, like that was immediately like the comparison that I drew. Um, and then he doesn't want to get an infection from his rusty sword. I enjoyed that.
That is
Just everything's going to hell, but you're trying to make light of it a little bit, even still.
yeah, right. I mean, you gotta have a little bit of comic relief every once in a while.
Yeah, probably not the best time for it there.
No, definitely not. Yeah, no, not at all. Because there's a lot worse coming your way than an infection from a rusty sword.
Yes.
But I mean, outside of that, which I didn't even, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that to light because I totally didn't see it as a comic situation, but I do see that now. I feel like this section was really transitional, taking us or moving the story along. I didn't really have really much to pick out of this one.
No, I don't feel like there was. So I think we could probably just move on here.
Sounds good to me. One of my shorter sections I think that I've ever had. So here it goes. The coin bearer came into a street lined with walled estates. The time had come, the adjunct knew, before he could duck inside one of those buildings. 15 feet away, she slowly approached. While adjusting her grip on her sword, she drew a long, deep breath, then surged forward, sword's point extended. This section, as short as it was, it really made me scared. It really, I for a second there thought that Crocus was going to die.
Yeah, there's it's just another tense moment that luckily we don't have to wait long. Right in this next section, we kind of get the resolve on it. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to talk about here. If you just want me to go into my
Let's go to yours. I don't have anything really to talk about outside of the anticipatory of the next section.
Sure. All right. Crocus heard the clang of metal behind him and dove forward and dipped into a roll, because if he could dodge a sword, he could dodge a ball. He was surprised to see the woman who attacked Call in the hills, fighting a man with 2 scimitars. She was good, but she was being driven back. The fight moved so fast, Crocus could hardly see the moves of the blades themselves, though as he watched, he could see wounds and blood coming from the woman. And she sure looked surprised by this. A voice next to him said, "He's good, ain't he?" There was a man next to him with a crimson coat and his hands in his pockets. Then he asked if he was going somewhere safe. Crocus appeared dumbfounded and nodded his head. The man said he would escort him, and not to worry. They had the rooftops covered too. The man took Crocus by the arm and led him away. He looked back one last time to see the woman trying to disengage from the fight. He could see she lost use of her left arm, but it made no matter to the attacker. He kept pressing. The man introduced himself as Fingers, 6th Blade of the Crimson Guard. Crocus was being protected by Prince Kaz and Caladan Brood. Fingers had referred to Crocus as the coin bearer. He didn't know what this meant and thought that they must have the wrong person. Fingers laughed and said they figured he was unaware of the situation and probably had others protecting him too. That was the only explanation. But he has a coin in his pocket that is likely two-headed. It's Open's own. Crocus had been serving a god and didn't even know. They got to the estate and Fingers said he should be safe. There's a powerful mage in there. Fingers told Crocus that if his luck turned, to get rid of the coin. Crocus thanked Fingers. He said it was their pleasure and to get inside.
Okay. So I'm wondering then maybe this makes more sense as far as what Rake was detecting as he was soaring through or plummeting through the sky. If this is what he was picking up on, not necessarily Fingers or whoever this guy that is fighting Lorne, but potentially this powerful mage that Crocus will eventually meet, I'm assuming.
I think it's got to be Quick Ben, right?
I don't know. Maybe. Is Quick Ben in cahoots with Prince Kaaz and Caladan Brood? I don't think there's any relationship there that we've been told of.
But I mean, I was assuming he was at Lady Simtal's estate. That's where he went, right? Well, that's what I was thinking.
No, he was on his way to Baruch's from Scimitar's estate.
Oh, that's right. He was going to Baruch's. And yeah. So, yeah, I guess I don't know who the this powerful. Well, they call Derridin a witch, though, not a mage.
That's true.
And she doesn't sound like she's all that powerful. So unless there's somebody, well, and Baruch's an alchemist, he's never been referred to as a mage.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's something more here that I almost get the feeling that I should understand more. But throughout this whole book, that we've been told that Caladan Brood is essentially in cahoots with Rake, but nearing the end of this book, it doesn't really seem that way. I guess I don't recall specifically what. I don't think Rake is aware of the coin bearer, right? Because I don't really remember his opinions about the coin bearer.
I don't either, so I don't know if he's just not terribly concerned about it.
Yeah, there's just so much mystery that's surrounding Opon, and some of the ripple effects that they've used people, but again, their motivations are kind of unknown. So, what is it that why are people protecting the coin bearer? And I'm assuming it's because they don't want these tools to end up in the wrong hands, right? Well, the wrong hands would totally be the Empire, but again, it goes back to the whole everybody seems to be against the Empress and Lorne, but they all have their different motivations, so they're not quite aligned with each other. I mean, we know that something is going on with Caladan Brood because, with the whole confrontation in Karul's bell tower with Sarat and what I'm assuming is Prince Kaaz. Brood and Rake must think that they're on the same side, but Brood definitely isn't. So it's just, yeah, sometimes I think it's just hard to keep it straight in my mind. But I definitely think that there's more here.
We just maybe haven't deciphered it.
Right, or it just hasn't been revealed, or in all good time kind of a thing. But
yeah, this I thought it was interesting. Every time we've seen Lauren in a fight, she's been pretty dominant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just to see her on her heels was, I don't want to say it was like a nice change of pace, but she's kind of getting her comeuppance a little bit, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird to see her get her ass kicked, or at least what it seems like she's getting her ass kicked.
Right, and this is where I think that the arm of the Empress was a little bit of foreshadowing here because she's down to one arm.
Right.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
We kind of know we haven't talked about it yet, but we know where this ends.
Oh, absolutely. So there's essentially two moments of foreshadowing within the same sentence is where you were going with that.
I kind of thought so, and maybe that's just my interpretation, but it seems to fit. So the shoe fits, wear it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Very clever observation, sir. Good work.
It's. I don't think that's as clever as yours with Krupp and the food.
Well, I think that's just a one-time thing. I mean, maybe this will be the new hill I die on.
Hey, I will climb that hill with you because I like it that much.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's just, Raffo and see where Krupp's stuffing a face leads us.
All right, all right.
Cool. Yeah, I guess, I mean, again, I felt like the section was definitely more actionable. There's a lot of action happening here, but I don't really have much to deduce outside of the fact that she's getting her ass kicked right now, and Caracas is probably confused as fuck. Like what? Who are these people? Okay, I'll go meet this mage.
Right. So yeah, if you want to take it away here, go ahead.
Can do. The adjunct was able to break away, taking a cut along her right shoulder as she did so. She bolted and ran, and the man did not pursue. How could she have been such a fool? She thought to herself. Of course the corn. God fuck me. Of course the coin bearer would be protected. She was outmatched with a contestant that didn't use sorcery. Her Otatero sword and her skill was not enough. Lauren staggered down the street, half blind, then turned around a corner. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw movement. She raised her sword and told whoever it was to leave her alone. Mies was hovering over her and told Lauren that she couldn't do that. They've been tracking Lauren since Circle Breaker saw her walking through the city gates. Mies continued on to explain to Lauren that the eel said that she had things to pay for, and Mies was there to collect. As this was said, Lauren felt another presence to her left, a blade swinging her direction. Lauren managed to get into a defensive crouch and parry the sword from her left. She could only watch in horror as Mies, holding two blades, drove them into Lauren's chest. Lauren screamed in rage as her sword clanged to the street. As she lay there, all Lauren could say was, "Who is the eel?" Mies was heard saying, "Let's go," ignoring the body at her feet. Fuck, man. I did not see this section coming at all. Like, I for sure thought her demise was going to be by this unknown sword fighter dude.
I didn't see it coming either, and I haven't been too big on Lauren in this book, but it kind of felt like, I don't know that underwhelming is the right word, but I thought Paran was going to get her, and it's just, I mean, as far as we know, Mies and Iralta are basically nobody, right?
Right.
So far, I mean, maybe we'll find out later there'll be somebody, I don't know, but it seems weird that these two seemingly normal women finish her off. I don't think they would have been able to do it, if it was a fair fight, but she was already crippled, right? And so they finish her off.
Right.
I kind of get the sense, I feel like maybe there's a little bit more to them than we know at this point.
Right. I mean, I just going along, like kind of tagging onto that. I mean, it was such a brutal way to go, right? Like, you imagine yourself and you're broken, you're bruised, you're bleeding, you have no stamina left, and then you're confronted by someone you don't even know, and then out of the corner of your eye comes a blade to which you have to react so quickly. But because all of your attention moves away from Mies and you parry the other attacker, you can't defend against what is inevitably Mies driving two blades into her chest. It was such a brutal way to go. And I always thought that someone closer to Lauren and like the deceptions around her would have been the one to kill her. And, going along with the way you feel, I kind of feel gross about who killed her. Like, revenge didn't come swift to Lauren. And as a reader, I feel a little bit cheated. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that she's dying, but I just, yeah, I guess more or less I feel I align with you there.
Yeah, I sometimes it's hard to put into words, but yeah, cheated is, it seems kind of like a strong way to put it, but that's the only thing I could, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's all part of. I think Erickson just really understands storytelling, and we as a reader this whole time have been expecting mainly Paran to get her, but there are others who I would have felt satisfied in getting, or basically taking out Lorne,
Yeah.
Rake, Brood, anybody who's really against the Rallick, Murillo, even Krupp. If Krupp were to somehow take her out, I mean,
I guess indirectly he kind of did, but
right, indirectly, right, because he's the eel. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I felt disappointment isn't the right word, but I just felt a little let down that it wasn't somebody else, which is fine. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like, getting all my panties in a twitch or anything like that.
yeah, no, I know what you mean though.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it was pretty rough. It's it's almost like the a medieval double tap, except you're not getting it in the head, you're getting it in the chest.
right. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because Lauren has always relied mainly on battling people who use sorcery. She's never really come up to a blade master, right? Everyone that she's battled usually has some type of sorcery involved to enhance their skill. So therefore, her Otaterial sword takes that, and her skill actually is the one that drives her to be able to defeat these people. So now it's just funny that she doesn't have any of that because he's not using sorcery. He's purely using skill, which is way better than her.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't, well, hadn't run into anybody that exceeded her skill level that we've seen.
No, not at all. But yeah, I just found that funny that, the things that she relied on most ended up causing her demise. Almost like she was a bit too confident in who she was going to end up taking on.
Some irony there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I guess I don't have anything else for this section.
Okay. Paran found Lauren's body in a grimy alley. He crouched down to her and said, "At least she made it a hard fight, whatever that was worth." Lauren's eyes sprung open. "Captain Gnos," she said. Paran just addressed her as adjunct. "She says they've killed her." Paran asks, "Who?" She doesn't know. "Two women who looked like thieves or thugs." It was ironic. She didn't get her glorious death. If only Paran had been a few minutes earlier. He watched her die and took her Otateral sword. He heard a pair of voices above him. They both said, "You gave him our sword." It was open. Paran said, to be fair, the rope took the sword from him. He could see the fear in both of them and asked why he was spared. Spared by Cotillion. Spared by the hounds. Why? Paran shrugged and asked Open, "Do you blame the knife or the hand wielding it?" The brother said Shadowthrone never plays fair. Paran tells Open that they and Cotillion both used mortals, and they both paid the price for it. What were they expecting from him? Sympathy? Help? They could fuck right off with that. They say they want the Otateral sword. Paran says to eat it. It won't be used to do their dirty work. The best thing they can do now is run away. He figures Cotillion has given Shadowthrone chance, and they're probably drawing up a plan for how to use it now. He turned his attention back to Lorne. Once he removed her armor, she wasn't that heavy.
Damn, Paran telling Opan to fuck the right off, huh?
Yeah, he's kind of had enough of everybody's shit.
Do you feel like he's learned his lesson a little bit? Not that there was really a lesson that he, deserved, but given the circumstances, I think that he's come out a little bit wiser because of it.
He's definitely harder,
Yeah,
you know. I would say so.
yeah,
I did like, how he just, the way he talked to Open, he didn't care, they're scared, fearful. It didn't matter to him. He just was straight with them, like, you guys weren't the only ones to do this. Like, you took advantage of somebody, and they paid the price for it. Like, I don't feel bad for you. You're getting what's coming to you.
Right. I mean, and the line that's sticking out to me the most in the section was the brother of the twins said that Shadow Throne never plays fair. Don't you think that's kind of like calling the cat
Oh,
black, right? Like it's
yeah, 100%.
so it's just I think it's interesting that Opon chose at this moment to come down or to make themselves known to Paran, right? Like it's kind of seems like their only way out is this Ota Terrell sword, and I guess what I feel like Opon at this point is going to get scared and pissed, right? Like it's going to be a game of avoiding Shadow Throne while at the same time trying to get this sword away from Paran. So I feel like it's opening up the story for some more interesting interactions.
Yeah, yeah. How is it going to work out? I don't know. What are they going to try to do to make things favorable for themselves? Because otherwise, I just maybe they survive this book, but long term, I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like I get the sense that Opon is just the beginning.
It is just the beginning, yes. We are nearly done with the beginning.
Right. So I don't foresee Opon being the player, or the only god who gets involved. I feel like there's their manager, so to speak, that kind of comes in and takes over as well. Yeah, many possibilities there, but I guess all I'm trying to get at is that I don't think that they're the ones who are going to be in there for the long haul.
What do you think Paran is going to do with Lauren? Why do you think he's carrying her away? I mean, he hated her. Like, you just going to go dump her body in the river, or what are you going to do?
I think it's more a confirmation that she is dying or dead. I don't know if at this point she's dead or not. I feel like she was dead.
I think she's dead. Yeah, because it says he watched her die.
Yeah,
She bleeds out or whatever. Yeah, I think at this point, yeah, she's dead. So you think he's gonna bring her back to like Whiskey Jack or something?
I think so too, just to kind of confirm to them physically that she's dead.
That makes sense.
But
Whether I guess we'll see if he says, if he's the one who did it or not. I guess that might be kind of interesting if he says he killed her when he didn't.
yeah, that would be interesting. I didn't even think of that scenario.
I just thought of that now, so don't worry.
Yeah, the beauty of talking about it is, some things just kind of come to you. Yeah, I don't know where that's gonna go. I mean, I guess I didn't even think about why he's carrying the body. So, or maybe potentially he just removed the armor. Maybe he's gonna use it or give it to
Yeah.
Ari or Apsalar.
Well, he had to have picked her up because he said she wasn't that heavy. He took the armor off of her. He's definitely carrying her.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
So I think you're right. A confirmation makes sense.
Yeah, but fuck, dude, heavy section.
Yeah, it was.
I don't have anything on. I can't think of anything else to add.
No, I don't have any additions here. So bring us home and we'll wrap it up here shortly.
Sweet. The air roared around Rake as he plummeted, and he made no sound. His warren drawn tight around him, below he saw the dun dragon making lazy circles over Jerujistan. Rake's equal in size and with power to match, the dun dragon was a fool for looking for Rake in the streets. Preparing for a burst of power, talons spreading and opening his mouth, and head snapping back as he bit into a wall of air. The sound made the dun dragon's gaze upward, but it was already too late. That's literally it. That is literally how this fucking chapter ends.
Well, at least it's not the end of the book. I mean, we have one more chapter at least.
It's cutting it close, though. Like, we're one chapter away. This could have easily been pushed off.
Yeah.
So
he's about to wreck that dragon's day, though. I think.
Right. So I'm thinking that the Dun Dragon is essentially the Lord Demon the Galen.
Yeah.
But I think that
Right.
he has shifted himself into a dragon after not finding him in the streets, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if he can fly, he can cover a little bit more ground that way, searching.
Exactly. I mean, I wish that I had more to talk about this section, but it's really, really straightforward and very suspenseful.
Yeah, so I guess, like you said, I imagine shortly after we get done talking here, you'll probably read the chapter.
Yeah.
I know. Were you going to read the epilogue also, since it's only a couple pages? I feel like I'm going to have to when I read it because I don't know that I can just not read 2.5, 3 pages.
I mean, more I guess I'm torn because it kind of ruins the format a bit, but at the same time, I think it's really going to depend on how it ends, how this last chapter ends. If it's just like a complete whirlwind, but I also have this feeling that the epilogue is going to be something not related to the book, you know, or to the events of the last chapter in typical book fashion. So I don't know, but yeah, I guess maybe I'll let you know. I'll shoot you a text when I'm like, yeah, I'm not reading it. And then maybe we could just pound out this last episode sometime this week and just get it over with.
Yeah, we can do that. And I know we're tentatively planning to wrap this book up on October 8th.
Yep.
I mean, we'll be have it read before then, but
Yes.
recording our wrap up on the book that day, anyways. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode. I think it's going to be good to kind of go through and recap the book with some readers that have already read it.
yeah, and we'll have some figuring out to do what we're gonna do. But we'll probably talk about some favorite moments and stuff like that, and different characters and what we liked, what we didn't like. Which that might be kind of hard to do. I can't say there was a ton that I didn't like.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm in the same boat with you. I definitely can't really recall any moments where I'm like I didn't like that at all. Um, Outside of just frustration as to how things occurred, which I think are normal, but I wouldn't say that there was any part of this book that I'm like, yep, nope, didn't like that.
Right.
As far as like like a negative connotation towards the work.
Yes. I agree. So yeah, I don't. We're about as close to being done with this book as we can without actually being done. It's tough to just not finish it.
Yeah, right. You're so close. But I mean, hey, now that we have recorded this chapter, we can definitely for sure move on to the last chapter of the book and potentially the epilogue. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, and just because I edit these podcasts, I've noticed a reoccurring theme in that we seem to have a very long-winded goodbye. Like some
That's the Minnesota goodbye.
yep,
right?
yep. Yeah, we have a hard time like the ending. But
Well, part of it is this. It's fun to do, right? Like just
absolutely.
talking about this book. So we get to do that together, and
Yeah, I'm excited to where this epic quest takes us because I'm really excited to get into the next book. I'm excited to finish this book, to be able to accomplish this goal. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, is just magnificent to do with a good buddy. So yeah,
yeah, 100% agree. It definitely will be an accomplishment that we'll have we'll have 26 episodes, 25, 26 episodes on this book. That we did. It took the time it took. We can't dedicate time to do this full time. Otherwise, we would have probably finished this book quite a bit sooner. So it's just, for something we're doing, either we're doing it in our spare time or we're making time to do this. It's been a ride and it's been a lot of fun.
it has been a lot of fun. I look forward to the many things that the Malazan Books of the Fallen are going to throw at us.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what we're gonna get.
No, no, but based on this book so far, I feel like it's going to be good. It's going to be big.
I agree.
Well, with that being said, I would say that this concludes episode 24 or chapter 23 of Gardens of the Moon.
And if you're all caught up on on with us here and haven't listened to our side quest episode, give that a spin. That was a fun one to do a month or two back, however long it was, where we talked about Prey with Dave from a Hive Mind podcast. So check that one out.
But before you check it out, make sure you watch the movie first. Don't.
Yeah, it's quite spoilery. if you want the movie ruined for you, then yeah, go ahead and listen to it.
Oh, right.
Watch the movie first. It was a really good movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Even if you're unfamiliar with the Predator universe or the Alien universe, definitely check it out. It's a good movie.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna not Minnesota goodbye this, and I'll see you next week.
All right. Talk soon.
Later, dude.
See ya.